Welcome back to the Bob Fu Report. Here's the headline news stories about religious freedom in China. Imagine a Christian bookstore would not display Christian books. Only the Chinese Communist Party's leader writings and the Red Book. This has been happening in China, the Guangzhou city, Guangdong province. In that church in Guangdong, Chinese Christians found that they are not able to find Christian books. Only Communist Party leader Xi Jinping's Red Book and his own writing, so-called The Governance of China. So this shows the church-state relations in China, and the nature is the Chinese Communist Party is dominating the whole thing. The second story I want to share with you is about Elder Zhang Chunlei from the Guizhou Ren'ai House Church. He was arrested and even charged by the Chinese prosecutor as committing fraud. Fraud? I mean, how can a house church leader commit fraud when he was ministering to a house church? And we now learned the Communist Party tried to use this charge basically to imprison him for setting up offering and tithing box in the church service. In the meantime, when his wife, Pastor Zhang Chunlei's wife, went to the Xinjiang District Detention Center, where Pastor Elder Zhang is being held in the Yunnan province, she was chained and shackled, both hands and her legs, for 24 hours during the interrogation. So she was treated as a criminal just for a 24-hour interrogation time. So currently, the Chinese police continue to detain Elder Zhang in the detention center. So what's the church's response? Here is the response from the Ren'ai Reformed Church. They published a prayer request letter asking fellow Christians to pray for him. In the end, the letter said, "We thank God for all the brothers and sisters yoked together with us and those who care about our suffering. We ask our fellow believers in Christ to continue pray for us." The story 3 is one of my close friends, George Kenstar. He has just released a new book called Religious Liberty in Crisis. Exercising your faith in an age of uncertainty. George Starr is not, of course, a strange name. I mean, unfamiliar face or name to the American household. He was a former federal judge in the D.C. Circuit Court, and he was, of course, most well known as the independent counsel during the Bill Clinton's trial for impeachment. And he has just been really hardworking educator and promoter of religious freedom for all after he retires from the civil service. His latest book, I'm honored in his first page acknowledgement, is a friend, and I could tell his passion continues for religious freedom. So in the book, George Kenstar explores the crisis that threatens religious freedom in America. In America, as you may have been experiencing if you are a faithful believer. He also examines the ways a well-meaning government action sometimes undermine the religious liberty of the people, and how the Supreme Court actions sometimes can also with the repercussions. So the reader will learn how each of us can resist, especially during this pandemic time, the quarantining of our faith within the confines of the law. You know, we have talked a lot in this program, and why, according to Judge Starr, that resistance is important through going a deep understanding of the constitutional law, and why, you know, the importance of religious expression. So Judge Starr invites the readers to be a part of protecting those rights of religious freedom and taking a more active role in advancing the cause of liberty. So I would recommend everyone, if you are able to, go to Amazon and your book store and local library to read it. I mean, he's not only talk about the principles of the international religious liberty, but also mentioning how under the founders' framework, the U.S. Constitution, how the religious liberty is being eroded now, and how can we as a civil citizen to resist and to help advance and protect our religious liberty in our own country. He touches some issues even as late as about cancel culture. So it's really absolute worth reading book. And we at China 8 every year released our annual report about religious persecution, especially against the persecuted churches in China. So we just released our annual report for 2020. According to our report, we have found 2020 marked the worst year of religious persecution that the world has seen since the Chairman's Cultural Revolution during the 1960s. So I wrote an opinion editorial for our local newspaper, Midland Reporter Telegram, or Telegram Reporter, MRT. Here's part of what I wrote. I will never forget. Most of ours, like Shi Minglei, or her English name Hope, remember times we treasure as well as sometimes we prefer to forget. So Hope, the wife of Cheng Yuan, a human rights activist, arbitrarily imprisoned in China for nearly 2 years for a fabricated charge, subversion of state power. She arrived in Midland after our rescue effort on April 7th. She thanked God, thanked China 8 and the U.S. State Department and the U.S. Embassy for rescuing her and her little 5-year-old daughter Aliyah from imminent danger to freedom. So as Hope shared one of her worst memories, she said, I quote, I will never forget that the state security agent Lin Shengxin repeatedly stressed to my lawyer, my family, and myself that not only would I have been imprisoned, but my family would be endangered if I continued to speak for my husband. End the quote. So we should never forget those bold heroes of our faith, and their suffering still continues. And another story involves one of the most heavily persecuted church, the largest house church in Beijing, called the Beijing Zion Church. And Dr. and Pastor Ezra Jin, a very close friend of mine for over 20 years, he wrote a prayer letter basically calling for the world prayers after 2 of the ministers in his church were kidnapped and arrested and even sentenced for administrative detention. One is Minister Che Jiafu, and the other one is Minister Miss Huang Chunzi. So both of them were sentenced to 7 to 10 days administrative detention, and as we are talking today, they were just released. But here is what the persecution means to the church. We have received information as we are talking that the several members of the church of Early Rain Covenant Church, so they were beaten up, arrested, and one sister, Shu Qing, on May the 1st, after the new regulation passed, when she and a group of pastors visited her pastor who was in prison in the police station. She was beaten and slapped just repeatedly. Even her eyeglasses were broken into pieces. And yet, this is her prayer points. She said, "We entered the police station willingly for the love of our brothers, so we were not afraid. What we did proved pleasing in God's sight." So they're not going there to make troubles. They're there to sing the praises of the Lord and to comfort and send food for the persecuted brothers in that police station. She said, although we were not surprised that anger completely filled our abusers, the process proved rather rough. We could only continue to preach the gospel if we were willing to submit to the authorities beating us. Perhaps our Christian singing offended them, or the spread of the video about persecution frightened them. As the journey already remains long, they were there for the whole night until very early morning. They were released after they were beaten. So they said, "Pray for mercy on us and on our persecutors. Ask the Lord to sustain us. Thank the Lord that the one with us commands more than the ones with the CCP. We may be humbled, but the Lord's arms are not shortened." So I hope this can be a great comfort to everyone who watch this segment of Bob Fu Report. I will continue by having a one-on-one interview with one of my heroes and a great champion for freedom, including religious freedom, for the Kazakhs and Uyghurs and other minority groups that are suffering enormously in Xinjiang, Uyghur Autonomous Region right now. I have a very special guest today in our studio at the Bob Fu Report. I'm so honored actually to know him over the years. He is the real champion, perhaps in Kazakhstan, for freedom and human rights for his people and beyond. That is Mr. Serikzhan Bilash. Mr. Bilash, welcome you to our studio and our program. How is your family doing?
It's very bad. My family is not safe now. My wife and my 3 sons, they are not in the country, in Turkey. And everybody know Turkey is now a friend of Chinese Communist Party, and also very close to Kazakhstan Republic. And so my wife, because of my activity and because of her activity, also about Chinese education campus located in Xinjiang. So she is not safe, and also my three son is not safe.
Yeah. So why even the Kazakh president put a bounty on your head, like you are on the wanted list? They really are chasing you, right? That's why you have to flee out of the country and to the United States. Why does he hate you so much?
There are two reasons. Because I originally from China, I'm Kazakh, but I born in China, and 20 years ago I immigrated from China to Kazakhstan, just like 500,000 Kazakhs immigrated from China to Kazakhstan last 30 years after Kazakhstan get independent. And this 500,000 Kazakh is very important to the whole world.
500,000.
500,000 Kazakhs. And this Kazakhs very important. Why I say it is very important? Because from Chinese Communist Party arrested around 3 million ethnic minorities, include the Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Kyrgyz, and the other ethnic minorities. We began to work on it. And I established the Kazakh human rights organization called the Ata-Jurt Kazakh Human Rights Advocacy Group.
Ata-Jurt, that is the most important single-handed documenting, the human rights abuses and concentration camp cases organization that Mr. Bilash has established.
So the first thing we began to work at the end of 2016 and the beginning of 2017, we held in conference and we collecting the people who lost their loved ones and family members in China and let them tell about their history, what happened in China. And because of our activities, there are thousands of Kazakhs stand up and tell their history. Tell their family members and loved ones which arrested by Chinese Communist Party. And at the beginning, Kazakhstan government didn't pay attention to us. They think we are ethnic minorities, it's not important. But after 2 years passed, because of our followers more and more, and the millions of Kazakh people began to support me and support my team, and they began to hate Chinese Communist Party. And the whole Kazakh people, they don't like Chinese investment to Kazakhstan because the Chinese Communist Party arrested around 500,000 or 700,000 Kazakhs in China. So the Kazakh people, they write the articles on social media and their websites, and all the Kazakhs, they don't like Chinese Communist Party anymore. And before it happens, before Chinese Communist Party arrests these ethnic Kazakhs, the Kazakh people think China is so friendly country because of investment, because of the cheap products.
Made in China products.
Yeah, and because it is really cheap. And they make the job opportunity in Kazakhstan, building restaurants, hotels, and building factories in Kazakhstan. The Kazakh people, they are not hated China. But after the arresting ethnic Kazakhs, whole Kazakhs, I could say, except our regime, except maybe around 200 families, 99% of Kazakh population is begin to hate Chinese Communist Party because they arrested the innocent Kazakh people. And they began to support me. And because of Chinese Communist Party's pressure and because of my activities, Kazakh regime, they began to hate me. They warned me 4 times. 2017 and 2018 by paper. They arrested me 2 times, 2018, and they fined me, they hold court hearing, administrative court hearing, and all these things, they didn't threaten me. I didn't stop my activities. I organized whole people, thousands of my volunteers, and we driving cars, visiting village by village, even some villages inside the mountain, and sometimes we can't drive because there are no road. So we are driving horses with our computers and the cameras and recording video testimonies from these nomadic Kazakhs.
Yeah.
Because these nomadic Kazakhs, they lost their children, they lost their family members in their education.
So in another word, you are hated both by the Chinese Communist Party in China and the president and the current regime of the Kazakhstan government.
You are right.
Because you offended them both.
Yeah.
For Kazakhstan president, number one, you are more popular than him.
Yeah.
That's very threatening.
Yeah.
Number two, you are being accused of damaging Kazakh and China relationship.
Yeah.
And damaging his business deals.
Yeah,
For the Communist Party of China, they don't want you to expose these abuses in the concentration camp.
Yeah.
And folks, I mean, many of you already know there is a genocide and crime against humanity are being committed by the Communist Party in China West called Xinjiang. Especially, the world know a lot about the treatment of Uyghurs, this particular minority group in Xinjiang. But at the same time, you need to also know that another group called Kazakh ethnic Kazakh minority group, I mean, like Mr. Bilash and his fellow people, are also being under the enormous the abuses and persecution, and in the same concentration camp. I mean, as Mr. Bilash has documented, just over 20,000 cases already from his own organization of those abuses. There are hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah.
And countless. And so right now, the Pentagon estimated between 1 to 3 million predominantly Uyghur and Kazakhs and other minority people from both the Muslim or Christian community are being held in these concentration camps. So I understand, Mr. Bilash, that just recently, like in early May, you have reported that at least 8 family members of those who are in the concentration camp were arrested by the Kazakh authorities for what?
Because they continued protesting in front of Chinese consulate at Almaty, Kazakhstan.
How long?
93 days.
Wow, 93 days.
Yeah, today is already 94 days. And they continued to protesting, picketing exactly, because all of them, they lost their loved ones. For example, Akikat Kalyolla, he lost his 4 family members. His father, his mother, and the 2 his brother. And his father killed by Chinese Communist Party inside the re-education camps, and his body didn't give back to his family. And there are no any funeral for his father. And the Chinese Communist Party just said, your father died inside the re-education center. That's all. And his mother disappeared, his 2 brothers disappeared, and all these people, because of their picketing, they just want to ask Chinese consulate just to give them answer where his mother and his brother. For example,
so approximately, sorry for interruption, how many members just for this 8, who are arrested? How many of their family members back to China altogether are in the concentration camp?
All these Kazakhs who are arrested by Kazakh regime, Kazakh government is only 8. But this Kazakh, but there are, we say, estimated around 50,000 or 500,000 or 700,000 Kazakhs inside the camps until now.
Wow.
But
500 to 700,000
Kazakhs
are currently in the concentration camp. If you can't the Uyghurs.
And the Uyghurs maybe 3 million, because we are the first largest ethnic minority in Xinjiang, and the Kazakhs are second largest ethnic minority in Xinjiang. So we why say we are 500,000 or 700,000? Because we collected all facts from Kazakhs, and we believe it. Every county, every village, they established the re-education center. Re-education center, it's worse than jail.
Yeah, I mean, I remembered watching a segment of the ABC Nightline News back to 2017. The Nightline News reporter, anchor Bob Woodruff, who recently visited us and interviewed you and others as well. He made a report, an interview you back to 2017 in Kazakhstan, and it was during his time. He was still in Kazakhstan, like 50 Kazakh presidential Secret Service members stormed your building and arrested you, right? So, you know, besides the international advocacy and exposing these abuses, what else do you really want our readers to know and to do anything to help and work with you guys?
IBC interviewed me at March 10, 2019, and after they interviewed me, the next day the Kazakh government arrested me.
Yeah. So and, what do you want us to do? We have 30 seconds.
I just want to tell the whole world, help us. Through China Aid or directly to me, help us, because we need to rescue thousands of former detainees from Kazakhstan, and this thousands of former detainees, the eyewitness, who they are lived 1 year, 2 years inside the re-education camps, and if they come to America and they will tell everything and any kind of their experience inside the camps.
Yeah. So be aware and pray for them, and certainly take prayerful actions. At China Aid, because of your support and your partnership, you are empowering our colleagues to walk with those persecuted like Mr. Bilash. Just back to February, we rescued a Kazakh family, Mr. Buzira and her 7-year-old daughter, with her husband to West Texas. They're now living peacefully here and resting and continue to advocate for their own people. That's all for today. Thank you all for your patience, for your support, for your walking and take prayerful actions. May God continue to bless all of you. Mr. Bilash, thank you once again for coming.